reading and the talking. We're going to turn in our Bibles to Esther 1. Esther 1, and that's after Nehemiah and Psalms. Between Nehemiah and Psalms, you'll find the small book of Esther. We're going to turn to Esther 1. And we have two microphones, and we like to pass the mics around to each other. Where's the other microphone? All right, you might have to pass the mics around. Okay. Put this over my shoulder. Last week we started this book of Esther. And before we start, I wanted to let the people know that are watching on the internet that you can receive your lesson if you put in support at 3angelsfellowship.org. And you can request your lesson, the study of the book of Esther, this lesson right here. And if you want to get one mailed to you, or if it's done through email or whatever, it would be support at 3angelsfellowship.org. Now, this is where we started last week. We talked about the rich king, and we're just going over this again. The rich king, he was a ruler. His name was Ahasuerus, and I've been told I have to stay with that name all the way through and don't change it. Ahasuerus, and of course he was known as Xerxes the Great. So I'm giving a little history here of the Medes and Persians. Here we start out with Babylon, Medo-Persia, and Greece. Those of you that study world civilization would understand that. But the Bible tells us the story of, say it again? Ahasuerus, who is known as Xerxes the Great. And he was the fourth king. Here he lived in the province known as Shushan. And in that province, they had 127 provinces in the kingdom of the Medes and Persians. We talked about Esther, what her name means, star, and her Hebrew name was Hadassah. This was the name that was given for her by the Medes and Persians. Also, we talk about the royal house, the princes. We're going to talk more about that. And also, this is just what we went through last week, and I want everybody to kind of get caught up. So we left off, I think, around question number 8. But real quickly, I want, look at the notes on the next page, and I want a reader to read the notes. So that would kind of catch us up. So we're going to get a reader to read the notes on the next page.
Note number 1 says, the vision of the 10th and 11th chapters of Daniel were given in the 3rd year of Cyrus, king of Persia. Therefore, when Gabriel said, there shall stand up yet 3 kings of Persia, and the 4th shall be far richer than they all, he referred to those that follow Cyrus, namely Cambyses, Smerdis the impostor, Darius, Hystaspes, and Xerxes the Great.
Okay, so we're looking also in the book of Daniel. This has all occurred in the time of Daniel. What is happening is in the Bible, there are different chapters, and different chapters tells different stories of what had occurred. But in those different chapters, they all relate as to what is happening during those time periods. So with Daniel, when the children of Israel were taken captive, at that same time, when they talk about Babylon with King Nebuchadnezzar, then after that, this kingdom fell, and this kingdom here started up with the Medes and Persians. This is where we come into the 4th king, which is Xerxes the Great. So if you look on here, when they talk about Xerxes the Great, they're talking about this king right here, which had two names. This is the Greek name, and this is the Persian name. So we're dealing with languages and everything. And so we're not trying to confuse everybody, but you have Hebrew, you have Persian, and you have Greek. So we have all of these coming together. Now, let's look at number 2, which gives more information on Xerxes and Ahasuerus.
It says that Ahasuerus Xerxes, there is sufficient proof. The two names are identical, the latter being but the Greek form of the Persian name. Second, the characters of the two men are alike. Both were impulsive and impassionate. When Xerxes invaded Greece, he scourged the sea for breaking his bridge and put to death the engineers because their work did not stand the storm. In a similarly impulsive manner, Ahasuerus repudiated his queen Vashti because she would not violate the decorum of her sex and ordered the massacre of the whole Jewish people to gratify the malice of Haman. In the 3rd year of the reign of Xerxes was held an assembly to arrange the Grecian war. In the 3rd year of the reign of Ahasuerus was held a great feast at an assembly in Shushan the palace. In the 7th year of his reign, Xerxes returned defeated from Greece and consoled himself by the pleasures of the harem. In the 7th year of the reign, fair young virgins were sought for Ahasuerus, and he replaced Vashti by marrying Esther. The tribute he laid upon the land and upon the isles of the sea may well have been the result of the expenditure and ruin of the Grecian expedition.
Okay, so right there we have received the whole history of the king, how he went out to conquer, because always remember that one kingdom comes to conquer the other. So just because they set up their own kingdom, and this kingdom I told last week, it was 3,000 miles. 3,000 miles. It went from Ethiopia all the way to where? What did I say was the other place? What other country?
India.
India. Okay. So that is the vast area from Ethiopia, northern Ethiopia, to India of this kingdom of the Medes and Persians. Also, the other part of Europe was starting another kingdom, which was Greece. So now these kings here, Xerxes the Great, he was attacking now and attacking Greece. And in the process of attacking Greece, he was defeated a numerous amount of times in attacking Greece. But now we want to look at, we're given the history of the king. Now, it's kind of hard because I don't want to go all the way through, but I'm going to go through parts of this and then go into the next lesson. That's kind of what I would like to do today. Now, let's look at question. You heard the name of Vashti. Vashti was, let me write her name up here. Vashti was who? Vashti was what? If there is a king, there's a what?
Queen.
A queen. Okay. V-S-H-H-T-I. Okay? So where there's a king, there was a queen. Now, after the king had, let's go to the Bible. Let's read out of the Bible. Let's start with verse. All right, let me read. I'll bring you up to speed. I'll read this real quickly and we'll come up. Let's start in verse 1. And this is the whole story. The official feast of 180 days. Now it came to pass in the days of Ahasuerus, this is Ahasuerus, which reigned from India unto Ethiopia, and he had over 127 provinces. that in those days when the king Ahasuerus sat on the throne of his kingdom, which was in Shushan the palace, in the 3rd year of his reign, he made a feast unto all the princes and servants, the power of Persia and Media, the nobles and princes of the provinces being before him. When he showed the riches of his glorious kingdom and the honor of his excellent majesty, many days, even 180. Now, a score is 20, so 80 would be 80, so it was 180 days. Now, when we talk about this 180 days, do you know what they were doing for this 180 days? What were they doing? Huh? Mike. Hello? My micer. Yes.
For the 180 days, a lot of it was he was displaying his wealth. There are festivities and activities that were going on for over half a year.
Okay. Is there anybody in here that can display their wealth for 1 day? Or 2? Yeah. Everybody's looking at me like, Mr. Hall, I don't have any wealth to display. This man had 180 days of displaying his wealth in a feast. Okay? This is King Ahasuerus, Xerxes the Great. And this is here in the Bible. And then it said, and when these days were expired, the king made a feast unto all the people that were present in Shushan the palace, both great and small, 7 days in the court of the garden of the king's palace. So in the garden of the king's palace in the city, he had a feast for the people that were rich or poor for 7 days. Now, let's move on. Then it talks here, we were white, green, and blue hangings fastened with cords of fine linen and purple to silver rings and pillars of marble. The beds were of gold and silver upon a pavement of red and blue and white and black and marble. And they gave them drink in the vessels of gold. The vessels were being diverse from one from another, and royal wine in abundance according to the state of the king. They had wine unlimited for all these days. They sat in these beautiful beds with marble and all these beautiful colors. Here, God is showing us the picture of the wealth and the greatness of this person, what he had or has at this time. And then now, and the drinking was according to the law. None did compel, for so the king had appointed all the officers of his house that they should do according to every man's pleasure. Now, here we come to the part of Vashti. We were talking about this last week. Also, Vashti the queen made a feast for the women in the royal house which belonged to the king. Now, did the king have women in this feast? You read? Did he? No, he did not. So what did the queen do? I can't hear the mic. People on the internet want to listen and know what is being said. What did the queen do? What did Vashti the queen do?
Vashti, she entertained the women in her own place,
Right.
while the king was entertaining the men.
Right. So, but the women, they were distinguished women in the province. This was not just every woman. This was the distinguished women of the province. Now, what the king would have he would have chamberlains, and he would have princes that were in his royal house, okay? So, of course, these princes would have wives, and the wives would be with the queen, and with Queen Vashti. Now, here we go in number 10. Now, somebody start reading the Bible here. We're going to get into the lesson. Let's look at verse 10.
On the seventh day, when the heart of the king was merry with wine, he commanded Mehuman, Bitha, Harbona, Bigtha, Agatha, Zephyr, and Carcas, the 7 chamberlains that served in the presence of Ahasuerus the king,
Read 11.
to bring Vashti, the queen, before the king, with the crown royal to show the people and the princess her beauty, for she was fair to look on.
Okay, so now the king is requesting what? What is the king requesting?
He was requesting that Vashti come in so that all the men could look at her beauty.
Okay, now ladies, I want to talk to all of you here. We talked about this last week. Would you want to do this? Why? Everyone said no, but I want to hear a reason. Why would you not want to do that? The king told you, here, you said it the loudest, so he's going to give you the mic. The king told you that you must come in to this court and to show yourself and your beauty.
Well, he wanted her to display herself. He wanted to flaunt her. So it's more of pleasing the men's eye, showing, that the queen is pleasurable and it could lead one thing to another. So no, I wouldn't put myself out there.
But wasn't there a problem with these men? There
They
was
were
something in abundance that they were taking for
yes,
days?
they were drunk, and
Oh.
and it was a man's party. So for him to want his wife to be displayed like that is disrespectful.
Okay, microphone.
In the account of the Bible, we see another situation that happened in this same extent. And it was in the days of John the Baptist. And there were men right there, and they were drinking, and it was a man party as well. And to seduce those men, the queen used her daughter. And when she used her daughter, she displayed herself as well. Now, if you are a woman, to display yourself is not only the beauty of your face, but she must display herself in her shape, in her stature, in her the ways of her body. So it had to be more than a display of just the face, because if this is a man full of wine and drunkenness, a face would not be enough for him. So it had to be something to sexually to harass him.
Arouse them, yes. Okay, so this queen was a very wise queen. And she knew there were hundreds of
She feared the Lord.
say it again?
She feared the Lord.
She feared the Lord.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Let's go on to the next part of the next text. It says, how was the command received in verse 12? What did she say in verse 12? Somebody read over. There's two mics.
But the queen Vashti refused to come at the king's command by his chamberlains. Therefore was the king very wroth, and his anger burned in him.
All right, somebody read note 4. What does it say in note 4?
I'll read it. And it says, the gate was an official seat.
No. In note 4, page 4 of the lesson. Note 4.
Oh, sorry.
It's
Okay.
Yeah.
In Oriental countries, it was not customary for virtuous women to appear in public
Okay,
unveiled.
stop right there. Read that real slow again.
Okay.
In Oriental countries, it is what?
It was not customary for virtuous women to appear in public unveiled.
Okay, keep going.
Hence, the command was unjust. By her refusal, Vashti revealed nobility of soul, for she chose to forfeit her position and perhaps her life, rather than sacrifice her modesty.
Okay, sister, what did you just say she was? What did you comment you just
She
said?
said nobility? Oh, she feared the Lord.
She
Yeah,
feared the
said-
Lord, okay? She knew. So, I can't, you have to talk in the mic.
She really understood her worth in the Lord. The whole thing about modesty and dress. And what the king was really asking was to unveil herself, And the custom was to keep yourself veiled because that showed true modesty. But he was asking for her to unveil.
Okay, well, hold on a second. I know hands are raised. So women, I want to hear from the women now. What would you do in that situation? Women, what would you do? Seriously, tell me, what would you do? She has the mic.
I wouldn't do it. I mean, it doesn't matter I guess you have, not I guess, I know you have to stand for what's true and what's right, so it doesn't matter the consequences, whether, because he could have easily, had her killed or whatever, but instead of that, he kind of put her aside, But I think it's because that she stood for what was true, so God was able to, spare her life.
It reminds me of the scripture that says to obey is better than
To obey is
sacrifice.
better than to sacrifice. There are comments. Go ahead. Someone wanted to say, yes, go ahead. I think.
And what we have to take in consideration is that the Spirit of God already had went through those countries, because we see that Mordecai was from the tribe of Benjamin. And if Mordecai was from the tribe of Benjamin...
You're going way past.
Oh,
But I understand what you're saying.
yes.
But don't go there.
Yes.
Not quite yet.
Okay.
We want to, I know what you're saying. It's going to come to that point. We're going to come to the Benjamite of Mordecai. All right. Going ahead. Someone else had something to say? Okay. Now, let's look at the next question underneath. It talks about, with whom did the king counsel? Okay? So now, when she said she was not going to come, and all those men are in there waiting, what do you think happened with all the men that are sitting there? Some of you guys in here, do you try to act like you're in a kingly manner? It's like, hey, I said to come, and the person doesn't come, what happens?
You get angry, you're embarrassed, first
No,
of all.
no, no, I want a man
Oh,
to answer
sorry.
this one. Sorry. Come on, man, what would you do? Huh? I know you want to spit it out, brother. Say it. What would you do? If the person you told to come and they didn't come, what would you do? Would you be upset?
Yeah.
No, hold on. Would you be upset? Well, then what? Here, tell us. You would be upset, and then what? After that, or you're upset, then what's going to happen? Go ahead, say it. Tell them that one word. You're going to be what?
Punished.
Speak in the mic.
Punished.
Punished. Okay? The person is going to be punished. Now, you would make the punishment for them? You're the king, ruler of the world. Now, you're going to make a punishment. What would you do to this woman that did not do what you said? What punishment would you give her? Off the top of your head. She's the queen. What would you do? I'm going to find me another one. This one ain't doing what I told it to say to do. Is that what you would do? He said, no, she's too quick. But go ahead.
Yeah,
I'll
it
let you-
makes me think of far beyond that, going backwards with her. I'm sure because she was a virtuous woman, she still upheld her integrity, her virtuous status, even with him alone. He didn't just get his way with her.
Yes, in the corner.
I just had a comment on piggybacking off of what she said. The women of Persia today
Still the same.
do not parade themselves around
Still
a
the
bunch
same.
of men.
That's right.
As a matter of fact, I was reading something earlier this week. There is a lady that got put in prison because she was with some man that wasn't even her relative. So they took her to jail in these Middle Eastern countries. It's interesting because, even now, it's like women over there get in trouble for driving. You're not supposed to drive. You're not supposed to be with anybody that isn't a relative or anything of that nature. So to see the Queen Vashti, even today you see the same remnants of the same thing. If you go to Saudi Arabia, you're going to see veiled women.
Yes.
They're not just, out there in a pair of short shorts and a halter top walking around. That doesn't work over there. But it's interesting because, even though most of the people over there are Muslim and they don't even believe in the true God, they have standards.
Yes. So this is something that had started from way back. I wanted to get a young person's point of view on what to do with. That's why I asked you politely if you would see what you would say. As he said punishment. So now, They're now, all these men together. Let's look at verse 13 to 15. It talks about, we're getting into what we didn't have last week, but now it's the counsel given. Now remember, the king had his princes, his chamberlains, all there. And let somebody read now verses 13 to 15. It's talking about the king and the wise men. What did they say? What should be done? Somebody
Then-
be a reader.
Then the king said to the wise men, which knew the times, for so was the king's manner toward all that knew law and judgment. Verse 14. And the next unto him was Karshina, Shethar, Admatha, Tarshish, Mears, Marsina, and Memucan, the 7 prince of Persia and Media, which saw the king's face, and which sat the first in the kingdom. Verse 15. What shall we do unto the queen of Vashti according to the law? Because she hath not performed the commandment of the king Ahasuerus by the chamberlains.
Okay, very interesting. When I asked you the question, you had the look on your face like, what should I do with the queen? That was the look that the king had. And the princes saw the look on the king, and they said, wait a minute, the king is not looking very good here. And so the chamberlain, Memushan, he spoke up, and he now is saying that we must go according to our law. Burton in the back had stated that the laws were given way back then with all the people, the women, how they were modest and everything, and those laws are still carried still today. Now, men, go ahead. You had a hand raised? Okay. Men now, being in control of this situation, what would you think that the men, is the king embarrassed? Yes. The queen did not do what was told? So now it's time for the men to make a law or to say something. Okay.
As we're reading this, it takes my mind to think about the time that we're living in this situation. We see right here that it's a queen, and she stood for she was virtuous, so she was pure. She wasn't defiled, with the wine of their indignation, the cup of their indignation, as these men were counseled together, and they were drinking of the wine, and they were being drunken in a false doctrine. This woman, this purified woman, this woman that represents God's people, they couldn't find nothing against her, so they had to create their laws. Now, before, because the law of God was already in existence, and in the law at that time was modesty and purity. So that was always how it was in the Middle East. But they had to say, let us make a law that we may banish her from the realm of this area, or they would say from the realm of this earth.
Okay. Now, what you're saying, does that reflect of anything of 2017 or what is to come? Ooh, I lightened everybody up. You heard what he said now. It sparked the people's minds here. So now this is I'm talking about 2017. What happened back then with Esther, the people of the Jews in that time, is that something that's happening today? Talk to me.
Yes. Now, what Brother Herzel just capped on, he was showing literally what we just read in Esther and Revelation chapter 17. Let's look at that. Now, we spoke about in Esther, we spoke about in 7 princes, right? Prince, correct? Are we together, brothers and sisters? Now, if you turn in Revelation chapter 17,
All right,
verse...
everybody turn to Revelation in the back, last chapter, Revelation 17.
Okay, keeping in mind we spoke about 7 prince in Esther, okay? And we're bringing this up unto our time. Because here in Revelation chapter 17, verse 10, it says, and there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, And one is, and the other is not yet come. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space. Now, back in Esther's time, you know, when it came down to this king saying, what should we do, you know, to this woman or church that won't obey,
Oh.
you
So
know,
a woman now in prophecy means what?
church.
Okay.
Okay. So in a nutshell, you know, we can, without going deeper into Revelation chapter 17,
We're just touching the surface of it.
yes,
Just to realize that this does parallel with Revelation and prophecy. Okay? And the number 7. All right, hold on one second. Let me move on real quickly to the next one. It's going to come. Turn to page number 11. Okay, let's go into what Memushan, what he talked about, his answer. Okay, verse 16 through 20. Somebody, let me get a reader for that. Verse 16 through 20 of Esther 1.
And it says, and Memucan answered before the king and the princess, Vashti, the queen, had not done wrong to the king only, but also to all the princes and to all the people that are all in the province of the king Ahasuerus. 17.
Keep going.
Yes.
All the way down. Oh, turn the page, yeah.
For this deed of the queen should come abroad unto all women, so that they should despise their husband in their eyes.
All right,
when
stop
it
right
should
there.
be
Stop right
report-
there. Stop right there. What is this? What is this prince now talking about? Go ahead. What is he talking about? Before you say, is this a man thing? Or is this a ruler, a king thing? Or you know, but go ahead. No, I want to hear but go ahead. Yeah.
It's a pride thing.
Oh, so it's a man thing.
It's just not a man thing. It's pride. When pride is put, when you put pride there,
Pride.
it could be a man or a woman. So, pride, you know, when your pride is hurt, you tend to look down on people. You tend to feel that you're better than.
So these princes felt that Vashti disrespected them, and now their pride is now coming up.
Correct.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
I think as I read it and I read the scripture, for me, it is enlightening me, and it's saying to me that it's saying to the rulers of this earth, we have to make an example to the commandment-keeping people. And if we don't make an example to the commandment-keeping people, then they will know that their faith is true. So us as the husbandman, which is they're saying the Pope himself saying we must make an example, because this is as he says, the husband. And we know that in Scripture it says, husband, love your wife, even as Christ loved the church. So we see vice versa right here. They're saying about the husbands, but they're not saying it in the way of the husband. They're saying that this is the law, and this is the purification. She's pure. But if we do not make example to her, then what our laws will mean nothing, because they stand against our laws.
So wait a minute. You're telling me that when these commandments have come out, you know, all these commandments, the 10 commandments, and somebody wants to change it because they don't want to follow that original law, so they must change it to suit themselves because of pride? Oh, okay. Very interesting. Go ahead.
And one thing for the queen, we have to take, we cannot say that in Scripture she did not know God. And the reason why, because this was the second kingdom that already arose. In the first kingdom, Daniel was faithful. So by his faithfulness, the whole, Babylon ruled the whole world. So they already knew that it was a true God in the world. And then they knew from the handwritings that went down, they already knew that this was true. So we cannot say that Vashti was not a true woman of God. she had to truly understand the mysteries of God because she knew from Scripture about the handwriting on the wall and how they conquered Babylon. It was everything was written already in their laws and their scribes written it. So for her being a queen, she had to be, in a sense, to hear these things and know these things and be converted and know that this is the true God.
Okay, very, very good. All right, read on. Who is reading?
So that they should despise their husbands in their eyes when it should be reported. The king Ahasuerus commanded Vashti, the queen, to be brought in before him, but she came not. Likewise showed the ladies of Persia and Media say this day unto all the king's princes, which have heard of the deed of the queen.
Okay, stop right there. So what is that telling you right there? Somebody speak to me, man. This is really good. What is that telling you? Come on, ladies. Ladies should be jumping on this morning. What is that saying right there? Go ahead, speak up.
Well, it's kind of saying that because of her example, that she was gonna give a bad example to the other ladies to stand up to their husbands. I mean, that's the way
and
that
the
we're seeing
princess
it.
said, this is not going to happen
Yes,
today.
but really, in the way of her being a virtuous woman, it's the opposite. Right now, he was very angry, and he drank the wine, and
There we
and
go.
in the Bible says that when you drink the wine, it's a mocker.
Right.
So he was basically mocking her for her standing up for Christ and her beliefs of modesty. So I see it in that way. I see it that she's actually an example to us to stand up for our values, for our principles, no matter what.
You just holding it? Is he going to say, huh? Yeah, I think he's going to read it. No, what's he going to say? Oh, okay.
Well, I believe what happened here is we see men going against principle, putting men's law. So the principle was that the woman's supposed to be modest, but right here is the king's word against the principle.
Right.
So that's why they are actually, how do you call that, compromising their principle to satisfy the king's thing. And
So you're telling me that we are Seventh-day Adventist Christians and we are not supposed to compromise to what?
against our principles.
The principles of what?
The Bible.
The Bible, okay?
See,
So if the
but-
Bible is our teacher and is telling us what to do, we are not supposed to compromise what we understand in the Bible.
It's gonna get to a point in the end time that
No.
man
We need
is
a
gonna-
point at the end time. It's already started.
It-
They're talking about people that are fundamentalists.
but they haven't passed laws yet until that things that will go against principle. And that's the problem. When they pass, well, they started already with the, correct myself, they're starting with the gay marriage already. That's against principle. You know, the principle of man, God
Wait a minute, go before that.
created man and woman.
Yeah, but go before that even when taking a life of a little child.
That's
And we
true.
can keep going on and on and on with the other things that are going on in this world today. People just do things, but they don't realize spiritually that that's wrong. It's come to a point now, oh yeah, we made a law, Roe versus Wade. Okay, we can have abortion.
Yes.
Now we made a law last year, June 26th. You can marry anybody you want to marry. What's next? It just keeps coming and coming, but go ahead.
Where we're looking at the example of the church right here, and we'll see that some churches are gonna have to bend their principles in order for them to pass laws that will be against the conscience, which is principle. You get it? And that's the thing about this lady, which is a woman symbolizes a church, and they will have to pass something over their principle in order to what? To sustain or to please men that are actually asking for this.
So that's where you read. Finish your reading, because
Yes.
now it gets, Mimoshan's telling the king, this is the law that we're going to do, king. So go ahead.
Thus shall there arise too much content and wrath. If it please the king, let there go a royal command from him, and let it be written among the laws of the Persians and on the Medes, that it be not altered, that Vashti come no more before the king Ahasuerus, and let the king give her royal estate unto another that is better than she.
All right, stop right there. Now, what do we have today that makes laws? What do we have in this country that makes laws?
Congress,
Congress?
legislature,
Uh-huh. House of Representatives?
Supreme Court, yeah,
What else? Supreme Court. What else?
the three branches.
Executive orders. Okay?
Yes.
Are you guys catching on to what's happening in 2017? Come on, folks, wake up, wake up. Time is no more. This is 2017. Here's the same thing going on here with Queen Esther, is the same thing that's happening here in 2017, where laws are being enacted and telling you what you're supposed to do. These are princes. These are the Medes and Persians. This is the court of the king in Shushan, the palace.
That's what I was saying.
The royal house.
They're going to have to make laws because they're fearing that the liberty of their men, pleasing the men, is in danger. So they have to go against their principle. What was our principle in our Declaration of Independence was that we should not put no laws of religion. That the government should not rule over, any religious thing. And now they're doing that stuff in order to they're calling it in order to secure our safety, our liberty. But they're going against the principle of the Constitution. You get it? That's what this man was saying. If we let these women act the way they're acting, then, all the women are going to be the same. And that's why they had to break their principle so they could pass their law. In order to
now let me just, what happened, hold on 1 second. What happened, wake up people. What happened a few weeks ago?
I was just going to say that.
What happened a few weeks ago? Wait a minute, let me put this date up here. Somebody needs some help. But that ain't the date. This is the one I'm talking about, 21 of January 2017. Go ahead.
Well, look what just happened this past week.
No, go back to the 21st, then come back to this week. What happened on the 21st?
When we had the huge, what was it called? The big march that
And what was the majority of them?
women. It was women for women's rights.
Okay, now go ahead.
I just look at the contrast of Queen Vashti. It wasn't about equality, why she did what she did. It was based on principle, on what she believed wholeheartedly in her heart. She feared the Lord. And it wasn't about, setting him straight or anything, but it was just plainly, I'm going to stand on the Lord's side. I know it's right. I believe in principles. I believe in dress reform. I believe in all these things, and I'm not going to bend to the will of the men. I'm not going to do that.
Stop right there. Go ahead.
So piggybacking after Sister Hall, that's why the Lord commanded us not to mingle with those that are not that are not in our faith. Being married to a man who is not who does not believe in God, it's a contrast because it's like she follows the commandment. If she married a man that followed the commandments of God, he would not have reacted that way. Mm-hmm. He would understand it's like, okay, I did something wrong. She's upholding what the Lord is telling her. So let me back up and reevaluate myself. But because she married a man of the world, like pride came in, and his ego got busted, so he had to make an example of her. Mm-hmm. And then again, Sister Marisol was like, she was our example to uphold Christ's commandments. Mm-hmm. If she was dealing with women of the same faith, they would have saw that. They wouldn't have seen the fact that, oh, she can stand up to her man, so we're going to do the same thing. So the laws had to be made. No, we would look at it as, okay, she's upholding the standard of Christ, so we must uphold the standard of Christ.
All right, Amen. Finish that last chapter, the last one. Yeah.
Well, it was the whole thing about equality for women, you know. And you see the contrast between, if you're standing for the Lord, it's not so much about equality, you know, for women's rights, but it's upholding the standards of God's laws, you know.
Right.
And
So
I'm
in
not
other
saying
words-
that it's
in
all.
other words, people of the world got it twisted to where they're looking at pride or self or equal rights. Are we looking at not compromising because we follow what God tells us what to do? See, this is the argument and the point that's getting ready to come. God is telling us what we're supposed to do, and are we following what God is telling us what to do? Now, real quick for you, all of you hit, I have to get this out. SDA, church, all of us are supposed to be on one page, following this Bible and not all over the place compromising all these different issues. We're supposed to be God's people. We're supposed to be one and doing what God tells us what to do. And if we stay in that mode and do that, of course, we are going to be persecuted shortly.
Can I say something real quick?
Okay.
It clearly in God's word it tells us he gives us warning. He gives us examples, but he also says, if you love me, keep my commandments. If you love God, you're going to do those things that are pleasing to him. And also the scripture that says to obey is better than sacrifice. You know, you might bend to the laws and everything that's happening in this world now, but there's a penalty. There's a cost that you're going to have to pay for.
In the back, the mic is swinging around, the bend in the back. Go ahead.
Yes.
And also
Sister Hall also was pointing to this past week in that just like on January the 21st, there was a women's march or something like that. This past week, all over the United States, you know, women came together wearing red. I don't know what day. I think that was
No Women's Day. No Women in Work Women's Day.
exactly.
Sister, it's your turn.
No, I was just going to say, you know, my husband and I were talking this morning, and he was letting me know that, you know, we as people tend to look at each other as we're better than one another. You know, what he was saying when he was reading this morning, he shared with me is like, you know, Christ don't look at us as what we are now, but he looks he looks at us as what we can be.
Yes.
If we follow him.
Yes.
And I believe if we see each other as like that,
Yes.
everything, you know.
Church, did you all hear what she said? Do we look as what we are to be? Are we a part of this world? Where are we supposed to be? Man, y'all are quiet. I'm going to fire y'all up
It's
this
true.
morning.
Wait
a minute. Hold on. Where are we supposed to be? Are we supposed to be in this place? Y'all like this place? This stinky, smelly earth? You like it? Do you like it here? Sister, you like it here? Would you like to go to some place where it's very nice, where you're supposed to be? She hit it on the nail. Are we thinking that I don't belong here? I belong with the master. Everybody, those that are thinking it right now are smiling on their faces like, yes, Lord, that's where I belong.
If we looked at one another as God sees us, what we could become, there would be so much love. There would be so much love because we would look beyond the faults. We could see each other for who God sees us as, you know, if we would allow him to mold and shape us. There would be no division, no discord in the church at all.
Wow.
Just had a couple of comments. First, when you study this lesson, there's a lot of end-time connotations. I mean, it just connects to so many different things.
Yes.
But I think the lesson that really stood out to me, well, there's two lessons. Number one, the modesty, the lesson of modesty. And even the men are supposed to be modest too.
Yes.
You know, we're not supposed to be walking around with our shirts off and all that type of stuff. So modesty to me is the first lesson. But the second lesson is there's going to come a time where unjust laws are made.
Yes.
And if we are standing on the Lord's side, we are not to obey those laws. Anytime the laws conflict with the law of God, there's an issue. God's laws and God's, it's more than just, the 10 Commandments. You also have God's health laws. You have various things, but I just praise the Lord. This lesson just has so much, and I know that we're just barely getting.
But let me tell you, man, I was reading the whole thing this morning through the whole book of Esther, and I'm sitting there like, wow, Revelation 17 or Daniel, it just goes back to Genesis. It goes back to Agag and the Benjamin. I mean, it's just, all right, but let me get me excited here. Okay, let's look. We gave his answer. You read 20? Let me read 20. I'm going to, after the time, I want to tap this all down. It says, and when the king's decree, which he shall make, shall be published throughout all his empire, for it is great, all the wives shall give to their husbands honor, both great and small. So now they had to put this thing out. They wanted the whole kingdom to know, and it's pronounced all over the place, because they didn't want this news of what Vashti did to permeate the whole kingdom. The king now had to make sure it was posted everywhere, this new law, whatever that Memucan had spoken, that it gets out before the queen and what she did gets out. Now, in number 12 it says, what was the result? In verses 21 and 20. And it says, and the saying pleased the king and the princes, and the king did according to the word of Memucan. For he sent letters into all the king's provinces, and to every province according to the writing thereof, and to every people after their language, and that every man should bear rule in his own house, and that it should be published according to the language of the people. Now remember, this King Xerxes, he didn't take no stuff. What happened with the engineers that messed up on the bridge? He had them all killed, okay? It was out of the mercy or whatever, Queen Vashti, that he did not have her killed.
Did we, in 20, it's kind of reflecting what's going to happen in the United States. Did we catch that?
Yes, that's what I'm saying, that those decrees.
It says, other wives who give their husband honor. Who's their husbands? They were the government, right? Who's these wives of the Church
The
of
church
America? The Protestant,
Right.
opposite Protestant. But the interesting says that it says the same wording of Revelation 13, 11 and on. It says both great and small.
Right.
Yeah, that's the image of the beast. This is the forming of the image of the beast. It's a type.
Right.
Yeah.
Type and anti-type.
Type and
That's
type.
right. That's right. That's right. Verse 21 and 22. The hands in the back. Go ahead.
I was about to just add that it's very interesting where it talks about the laws of the Medes and the Persians do not change at all.
That's right.
That goes to Revelation. That leopard-like beast, we know that their laws do not change.
No.
So this has direct end-time parallels. In the end time, this beast, this kingdom, who's also a religious power, will make laws against God's people.
That's right. That's right. Okay, now, it says, what was the result? It said the letters were sent to every language. Now remember, did anyone catch this? What do we have today that sends out communique? Internet, okay? But also the news media. Everything goes out saying that this is the law, this is what's passed out, everything goes. The Medes and Persians had the same system back then. Everything was sent to all the provinces to let them know what the law is. And the same thing here in this world today, we have those means. It says, with what duty were they evidently acquainted? Somebody read me Genesis 3:16. Somebody read me Ephesians 5:22. One reader, Genesis 3:16 and Ephesians 5:22. With what duty were they evidently acquainted?
Genesis 3:16 says, unto the woman he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception. In sorrow thou shalt bring forth children, and thy desire shall be to thy husband, and he shall rule over thee.
Okay, so according to the law, we're going back in Genesis, what happened with Adam and Eve and what happened when Eve had sinned and the situation that came upon Eve and Adam. The next
What's the other one?
wait a minute. Ephesians, I think she has Ephesians.
Go ahead.
Ephesians 5:22. Wives, submit yourselves unto your husbands as unto the Lord.
Okay, when we read that text, ladies, women that are married or whatever, what do you think?
That my husband is the house man. He's the ruler of the home, and I'm there as a helpmeet.
So none of this ruler with the iron fist and
No.
do what I say, and we're
No.
not equal. It's like shut up and be quiet and just follow my rules. Is that what it is?
No, we work together as a unit.
Okay.
Same from the beginning with Adam and Eve. And even the Lord taking a rib out of Adam meant
that's
that they
exactly
were
what I
to
was getting ready
be
to say.
equal, even though he was even a little taller than her. That was to show that he was the head and she was the helpmeet.
Okay. Ladies, any more? You want to say something? All right. Okay, all right, let's move on. Let's look, it says, with what duty were they unfamiliar? Whoever's in Ephesians, read 5:25. Yeah, go ahead.
In reading what we read in Genesis, it brings me back to the three angels' messages. You know, specifically Revelation chapter 14, verse 8. You know, it says, and there followed another angel saying, Babylon is fallen, that great city. So, and just in what we read in Genesis, it makes me think about the three angels' message here.
Okay. In going further in Esther, it comes to all of those points. Three angels met everything. You know, do you find it? No, I won't go into that. I don't have enough time, but the numbers, the numbers 3, 7, 13. Further on, it talks about the day that the decree was made against the Jews and everything. There's a lot of numerology or things that happen on certain days, sometimes of the month and different times of the years. All of that takes into effect. Let's go to Ephesians 5:25.
Husbands, love your wives, even as Christ also loved the church and gave himself for it.
Okay, so the wives, and then what are the husbands to do?
Love their wives,
As what though?
even as Christ loved the church.
Okay, so now, ladies, would you find a man that doesn't like church? Does that say something? Because first of all, if you find a man he's not a Christian and he doesn't love God, what's going to happen? Huh?
Your views will be different.
We talked about that earlier, right? With wives and the church and everything. Okay.
No cohesiveness.
Say what?
No cohesiveness. There can be no unity.
But I'm saying is you should get a man that really loves God or just a worldly man? Which one's better? Huh?
He has
Some
to first love God before he can love himself or his wife.
Right. So then the women are looking for godly men, right? Huh? Are you supposed to or what? I mean, I don't know.
Yes, that's it.
Oh, godly women are looking for godly men. Okay? But you don't think the ungodly women are not looking for godly men?
No.
Huh? Yes, they are. Yes, they are, because they need help. And they know that if they find a man that is of God, you know, there are many women that go to churches looking for godly men. And there are also men, too, that are out there looking for godly women. But one thing that Sister Hall said was very important. We both need to be on the same page. Okay? I know some of you in here, and I've witnessed myself, my older sisters or whatever, what you choose comes back. I know you guys are young. What you choose, okay? You have to choose wisely. Don't you choose for yourself. You have to let God be the one that leads you on that path, okay? And some of us can testify to that in here. You have to let God lead you, because if you don't, you'll get in trouble. That I will say. And go ahead, make comment, please.
I was thinking about one thing before, not so much about the woman, but about the decree. And one thing we really didn't take in consideration about this decree was that if Babylon, Medo-Persia took over Babylon, Babylon was the modern day capital of the world. It was the modern day capital of the world. So that means if it was the most trade was going on and the most commerce was going on and the highlight and the media of everything was going on, it was going on in that area of the Medes and the Persians.
Right.
But it clearly says that he ruled from Ethiopia all the way to India. Now, why did it say that? Because if you think about that, that means that when he made a decree, it went all the way to Africa, all the way to Asia, because India is in Asia. So when he dethroned Vashti, or he punished her, or he made a decree against her that that her purity is not true, and we're gonna punish you because that, and try to cast you away, that you be not a part of the earth no more. The scriptures were saying in prophecy for us that when this decree, because his decree went through the whole world, so when this decree of this natural son-in-law, which is United States, the modern day Babylon, it's going to go all the way to Africa, all the way to India. So it's going to go through all the European countries, all the way down to Africa, to every country in Africa, and all the way down to all the countries in Asia.
Yes. Now, our time is up or almost up. And it's very interesting that you said that these decrees are going to go all over the world. Also to my thing with Vashti, the king, and everything, and the kingdom, and very importantly, families are very important in this end time today. Some of you, whatever you choose or whatever you do, everything comes first with family. This whole story of Esther and how she got in there, Mordecai, this is a lovely lesson. It is deep. We're not even scratching the surface of what God is trying to tell us in this lesson. Some people say, oh, the book of Esther, 10 chapters. Really? Every chapter in this book of the Bible is rich and power-packed. We can spend days in just one chapter and going through one chapter in the Bible. Days. Line upon line, precept upon precept. This is fun. And because a lot of us in here are prophetic students, we can see the connection of prophecy with this lesson today with the king, the rich king, okay? Xerxes the Great and what he represented. Okay, the next lesson coming up, man, I could wish I won't be selfish. I could teach this whole thing. No teachers. I'm sorry, but the next one is what I like. Next one coming up, lesson 2 is effect of home training. That is the title of this lesson. Go ahead, my dear sister, please.
Thank you. So one thing that stood out to me in this lesson is Vashti's firmness, her standing firm. And I think that speaks to all of us, and that light has a way of creating enmity with darkness, right? And there's darkness in men's heart, especially in this time. And it's going to make that divide. But in Vashti standing firm, I kind of see a battle, right? She's not doing much, but she's actually fighting, and she fought for purity for God. And even though it doesn't seem like it, and she got dethroned, I see also God's protection. She didn't die. She could have easily been executed. And I guess that just shows to us what we do in just that little thing, and just integrity and staying true to God, and that he will fight for us even though we can't see it. And God always triumphs over evil in the end. Amen.
That's it. That's the end. She said it all. I was going to say, She said, God bless you, sister, and that's true. Stand firm, everyone, to the end. All right, we're going to have prayer. Let us bow our heads.